Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon for 2034, a sports odyssey, imagining the stadium of the future. I'm Gina Waldhorn. I'm CMO of Sports Innovation Lab. We've been hosting a couple panels today, but we're very excited about this one. And I'm thrilled to introduce your moderator today. We have Abe Stein, who is head of innovation here at Sports Innovation Lab. And Abe was a principal writer behind the fluid fan and developing that concept of the fluid fan. He is also the author and stewards a lot of our groundbreaking research around technology and innovation, working with some of our biggest clients on their strategic roadmap, paving a path for what their future looks like with the fluid fan. Abe is also our resident futurist, which really positions him as the perfect moderator for this discussion on what the fan experience and the event and the stadium of the future looks like with our fantastic panelists. So with that, Abe, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeannie. You forgot the most important thing. I'm a huge Bluey stan, so I don't know. Big shout out for folks who like Bluey in the house? No? Okay. All right, a little bit. Thank you. Appreciate it. Really excited to have this panel. My principle behind building a panel is I like to get people on stage that I really like to talk to. And I've got 4 people that I really enjoy talking to, so I know you're all going to enjoy what we have to talk about today. It's a little bit forward-looking, right? We're going to be a little bit futuristic in thinking about where is this going? Where is live sports in a stadium and a venue going, and what can we expect to come around the corner? But I'm going to invite our panelists to introduce themselves, say a little bit about who they are and what they do at the organization that they're at, and I'll just kind of work my way down the line. So George, if you don't mind going first, that'd be great.
George Connors. I currently work for Every, have about a 30-year tenure in the gaming side of business, and then my prior...
Microphone, sorry, George.
Let me do that one more time.
How's that? That's a little loud, isn't it? So let me start all over. George Connors. I work currently for a company named Every. And if you're not familiar with Every, if you try to take a few dollars out of the ATM here at the ARIA, you'll get to know us quick because we do. Josh shared with me that he resents me a little bit because of the money he took out. But my career has been primarily based in gaming about 3 decades now with about a 7 or 8 year splash in sport. Currently worked with a company called Fiserv. So I've spent my career in the technology business based around payments and other.
I'm Ken Lovell. I'm responsible for golf technology at the PGA Tour, which is a nice title that can mean anything you want it to. Basically, my job is to scoop as much information off the golf course at any given second and get it to people as fast as possible as we can, and so that we can tell more stories about what's happening in the venue itself.
And I am Andy Hook. I oversee market strategy for sports and entertainment at Oracle Food and Beverage, considering point of sale solutions, payment solutions in the venue, and fan engagement and loyalty solutions out of the venue. And we're really thinking about how do you bridge that experience from out of venue engagement to then make smart transactions in the venue. And so we're looking at the venues of today and helping our clients evolve for the venues of the future.
Great. Maria Zorotovich, I am the GM for Venues and Gaming at Intel Network and Edge Computing Group. Within my area, I actually get the opportunity to work with into operators, but to really learn and understand where the challenges are. Where my team works is very behind the scenes in this compute level, working with different providers across the ecosystem to bring new solutions to bear into the market.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. So we have a little bit of a theme for our conversation today. We're going to divide it into 2 sections. We're talking about what we're looking forward to and what innovations we're seeing in the live venue and live sports space. But sometimes innovation can be seen, right? It can be right in front of our face. It can be what fans experience very vividly and changes the way they're enjoying it. And sometimes innovation, sometimes the most important innovation can be unseen. It can be the things that you don't even know are happening beneath the surface, right? That are going to impact those seen experiences for fans. And so we're going to start with seen, but then we'll pivot into unseen a little bit because it's important to not just focus on, I know we're at CES, but not just focus on the splashy, exciting things that you see, but sometimes it's wires, sometimes it's connectivity, sometimes it's the less splashy things, right, that are in front of you that are nonetheless important. So we're going to look at seen and unseen innovations. And even though I started by saying we're not just going to focus on splashy things, I am going to start our first question with that very significant topic that everyone's talking about at CES, which is artificial intelligence. AI, it's like everywhere, right? You can't walk 2 steps without running into it. And it is absolutely impacting the way we see the future of live sports and the live stadium experience. So I actually might toss it down here at the end, Mari, to you first, especially since you're in the space of computing and you're looking across domains. Where do you see AI changing the live sports experience and in what ways?
Yeah, I think AI as a capability right now, I should say that we're in early stages, meaning we're really seeing the impact at the application layer, which really ends up being in terms of point solutions, being able to focus on a challenge, find a solution at that level. And I think it's a good testing ground. And what do I mean by that? You know, there's solution providers in the room. I think you're going after a problem set. You're trying to solve it using AI, given the amount of data, or the capabilities and compute that it can provide, to provide different insights or a different layer of actions and outcomes, which is really great. I hope that we continue to see it go even further. Where we think more holistically about the application. So if you think about the data aspects of it, it's not just the data that's coming in from the mobile app, it's not just the data that's coming in grounds from sensors within the particular venue, media data, social data, et cetera. You know, bringing those pieces together to create something much more comprehensive and much more of higher value, that's where I think it's going to get exciting. So we see pockets and all of these different capabilities, and I'm hoping that they're going to start to come together and the data is going to be used slightly different.
Absolutely. Andy, I might ask you too. I mean, you're constantly looking at different applications and use cases for technology in the sports space and in the live sports venue ecosystem. What have you been seeing around artificial intelligence and the impact that's having on the technologies that you engage with?
Yeah, sure. And I think there's a couple different ways to think about it. There's the operators of the venues looking for efficiencies and making their lives easier. And, you know, teams in venues need to have the ability with sort of the limitations in staffing to be able to act upon data. And AI will be able to allow them to act on this data in a way that's easy for them to manage across their entire estate. And that's not just the venue. It's hotels next to the venue. It's restaurants. It's casinos and gaming lounges. And how does all of that data connect in simple ways? And in terms of the fan experience, which is probably kind of the sexier version of the AI story in terms of the stadium experience, it's understanding and predicting different fan journeys. Myself going to a game is going to be different from Ken's. And if I'm going to the game with my friends, I'm probably going to have a different experience than if I go with my parents. And, you know, they need to be able to predict these different behaviors. If you're going to a football game, if you're going to a concert, if you're going to Disney on Ice, all of that will be different. And to allow you to predict that, I think, is a powerful feature.
Yeah, you brought up a really interesting concept that I definitely want to tee up, and I want to make sure we have enough time talking about, which is this idea of a district, right? The idea of an entertainment space, that the walls of a sports venue are metaphorically tumbling down, right? And the boundaries that we used to imagine for what the live entertainment venue is are changing. And George, I know that's a big thesis for you at Every and a big part of what you're thinking about. And so I wonder if you could share a little bit about your perspective on how we're reimagining what the live sports entertainment district is looking like.
Yeah, you know, I think the best way to set that up is to step into the city. So as you can imagine, 30 years ago, the casino industry didn't look like it looks today. When you look up and, you know, from north to south on the Strip, you know, I can look at this and know that most of the buildings that were here 30 years ago are gone, and there's this new look. So, you know, at that point, the walls of a casino is where everything happened. You know, the walls of the casino, other than probably Caesar's Palace, who was ahead of the curve, you know, they wanted to keep somebody within those 4 walls, you know, just as an example of a casino. And then you have, you know, Steve Wynn jumps into the picture, and he starts, you know, building casinos that don't look anything like what we saw 30 years ago, the ones that you enjoy now. You know, in the sports world, what we're seeing is the same thing, except for, you know, quite frankly, I think it's decades behind what I'm seeing in the casinos. But we're seeing the same thing. We know by the moves being made in the sports world that they realize they need to get outside of the venue walls. And if they don't, there's going to be limitations, great limitations. So these districts that are popping up, and it's not like they're 2 years old. There's some that have been around for a while. They just haven't been leveraged the same way. So, as far as Every and what we're looking at, we're not only looking at how we as a company can pop outside the walls of what we do, but we want have a great emphasis on watching the sports industry and those venues grow the same way that we've experienced the casino world. So, and it's happening. And anybody that's in the business right now, they know that the district is a major focus of what the teams are looking at.
And technologically, it needs to be thought of more holistically, right? In the sense of the Wi-Fi. Listen, I still will go to a sports event and I can't Instagram my concession food because I can't get on the internet, right? So the ability to connect even should be applicable no matter where you are, whether you're in the sports venue, whether you're in the hotel next door, whether you're in the bar next door as well too. I mean, it's about creating a holistic fan experience, holistic guest experience that feels cohesive, right? And pushing that along?
Yeah, it does, and it's funny because, being an old school guy, a guy that works with me, Sam Urin, he reminded me one time, we're sports technology, so I have to make sure that I am up on that theme. But, with the AI experience, with the technology, with the ability to be able to connect people, that is really the only way this is going to happen. It's going to have to be technology-based. It's going to have to be using the data that's provided. And, from the old days, you'd sit in a meeting and you'd be challenged by a chief marketing officer on where, the reports and the data. The problem is it was provided, but nobody was doing anything with it. And now what we've done through AI and other things is we've found a way to utilize that data so we can have a bandwidth to touch more.
And no one feels the challenge of an arena without walls quite as acutely as you do, Ken, right, with the PGA Tour. I remember when we first chatted, you were describing what it was like and how you imagine what a sports venue is, because you have such unique considerations around what it means and unique considerations technologically in terms of what it means to have a venue. I wonder if you could share a little bit about what that's like for you on a weekly basis.
Yeah, so we live in a slightly different world, and I'm very jealous of people that have a defined floor space that they're trying to measure. It's cool. Don't get me wrong, it's very challenging in its own. There's a lot of concrete in a venue. We don't have that. We just spread out over 200 to 250 acres, then have to produce a district. Literally, it comes down to basically building a district from nothing, and that means that we have to figure out how data moves, where it's going to go, how you're going to put the things down so that you can collect all that information. And kind of hitting your point about AI and what that means. If you think about it, AI hits, you kind of talked about this a little bit, at multiple levels. So starting off with, you have to collect enough information for it to be useful so it tells you something. And one of the tricks is to put enough sensors on, in our case, on the golf course, but around a venue so you can understand what's happening. If you didn't measure it, then it doesn't happen. But then you're starting to take that and you have to be able to live in that and troubleshoot it on the fly. So we are already using, so you've got two levels there. One is using AI, and in our case, ML and other techniques to take sensors to tell you what's happening in real time and make that into something that's meaningful, right? So that's how you end up with fun things like telestrators and traces and predictive analytics and things like that. The second level is knowing when that network dies, because it does every day. Something is going to go wrong. It's just a question of when and where. The more you can get ahead of that, the faster it'll be. But then you get to the really cool thing, and that is what I like to describe as, I want to give a fan the thing that they wanted to know before they wanted to know it, that they care about, so they can tell the people about it that didn't know they wanted to know it before they knew it, right?
Say that one more time.
So the idea is that I want something that will allow me to talk trash to my father that will make me sound better to him than he thought, right? That's what AI is in my life. I want that to be something that is meaningful to me. So how do you then do that? So take, again, a golf course is a unique space. You can't even see the whole game. You start out and you have, and again, no disrespect to any other sport, you aim one camera at one ball on one field and you know who won the game. There are very good broadcasts, but there's a lot more than that involved, and it's art, so I'm not dismissing that. We have a different problem where it's minimum of 18 venues, and you're talking about more, well, at any given second, I mentioned this earlier to somebody, on any given Thursday morning, there are 14 balls moving in any given second. Which one do I care about? That's true of the fan at home, and it's true of the fan on the course itself. How do I can't even keep up. But then add to that, going back to your district question, if you build a golf course out the right way, you have an area, there are fans that are interested only in the purest. They want to know, where can I see the best shot hit that looks like this, that the one that looks most like this classic shot, the one that, those things. Then you've got people that will literally never see a golf shot. They want to go to the club. And we make those, right? We can build that. We want to know what that does. We have people that want their kids to be able to roll down the hill because we have hills and we don't have seats. And that's a pain because it's really hard to deliver concessions to the hill. At the same time, we want to be able to cater to those people and give them the information they need about how to go, where they want to go, what's happening. And by the way, what was that roar I just heard over the hill that I don't know what just happened? I'm building video boards all over the golf course. You'd think I'd be able to tell people what just happened over the hill, right? That's what the potential is for some of those things.
Yeah, I mean, it's so fascinating, and it you know, all of you in your remarks, and you've addressed a historical tension that exists in the sports industry between the at-home experience and the at-venue experience, right? I mean, truly, to be a future-looking person, you have to be a historian. And you have to think about the fact that, like, you know, when you want to sell tickets, you don't want people watching at home, right? There's always been that tension. It's hundreds of years old, if not more. And yet, so much of what we're talking about is about bridging that gap and bridging that distance for the people who are at home. You know, and Mari, I might toss it back to you because I know Intel has been doing a lot of work in this space and thinking about the way that computing is impacting the at-home experience and bridging those gaps.
Yeah, I think what's important to mention on this and what I'm so excited to see, you know, in my work, because we're so behind the scenes, I tend to look over at other industries and understand what are they doing, and then how do we take lessons learned and start to pull them over into other industries and share those. And when we talk about the in-home and live and kind of this merging with the bridge around technology being that piece, you know, it's just the evolution of the fan experience. And it's no different than what we've seen in other industries like retail, where we're starting to bridge that, and it creates something that's a really great opportunity. Now, in doing that, you know, depending upon where we're talking in venue, depending if we're talking in home and what type of capabilities, whether it's on a mobile device or if it's something that's being served up as media on screens in venue, it does require different types of compute. But that's really something that none of you should be worried about. That is something that should be so seamless behind the scenes that whether it's your Wi-Fi, your network, whatever it needs to be, we need to be able to have the capacity, to be able to have address latency, et cetera, so that as Ken's describing the myriad of data points that could occur in which we want to serve that up to any type of you know, avid fan or anybody, we just need to be able to have that back end that can do that can channel all of that data. And so one last point on that bridging between the two. You know, think about what we've done in a live venue or a physical venue, whether it's from security, whether from sharing content on screen, the big screen, to tell people what's happening at the middle of play. We know how to run that business. We know the pieces that are involved, the people, process, tech to do that. Now that we've bridged over using digital and more in home, we've got to build out that capability of what is required there from a security standpoint, from running it from a Wi-Fi, all of those types of pieces. And that's kind of where we're at. You know, it's getting that great practice, but it's in a different medium to bring those together.
Yeah, and then Andy, I think you're kind of, in many ways, on the other side of the paradigm, right? You're thinking about it in terms of how am I going to make, and how are the technologies that we're empowering going to make that live, in-person experience more seamless and more frictionless and even more enjoyable in such a way that it makes you want to go. It makes you feel comfortable wanting to go. It makes you feel satisfied and ease in the experience of going. I'm curious if, you know, from your perspective, you know, how that's working when you think about how do you combat against the apathy of, oh, I could just watch it on my big HD TV screen at home.
Yeah, of course. And don't get me wrong, I love watching a game at home on my HD TV. But in general, fans do expect more, and they expect a seamless process, whether it be entering the venue and some of the work that Wicket is doing, and I see our partner here, Lava, some of the work that they're doing with the Cleveland Browns is impressive to allow casino-style entry essentially into the venue using facial recognition, but going beyond that to identify fans and understand their behavior. They know what you've purchased in the past. They know where you're sitting. They know what upsell opportunities exist, and fans want to get in and out, and at the end of the day, everything on top of the game is great, but fans are there to not miss the moments that matter. If you're going to shell out $500 to $1,000 plus to go with your family to a game, I expect to be there for puck drop. I expect to be there when the moments that matter to me are happening, and they're the things that I'll be able to tell my friends and family about on social media, et cetera. And so it's about how do we make that more seamless, and it's about personalization and going back to the idea that everyone's experience in a venue is different, and not just the fan experience, but if you can get people flowing through more quickly, going through underserved areas more quickly, you'll increase per cap spending, overall volume, return rates, customer satisfaction, and in turn deepen the loyalty of your fan base. And so there's a real trend of the tie between venue operations and team marketing and team loyalty. And how do you sort of tie those two things together to ensure that fans do want to come back to your venue in times of increasing competition in sports and otherwise?
No, it's
Can I just riff on that for a
Please,
second, though?
please do,
Because I just want to point to that I think that we think of these two things as competing against each other, and they don't. And I say that, I mean, there is so much golf on TV, right? Like, there is just a lot, right? The trick is that every one of those experiences is its own venue. People are looking something different from every one of them, and the trick is to give them that in the best way possible. So I might want to watch at home. We have people that will go to a golf tournament on Thursday and Friday, but on purpose will have a party in their house on Saturday and Sunday. How do I make that so that it's the best experience they could have? And they get some advantages there. Like, what we want to do is to be able to build, and I'm skipping into your future here a little bit, but it's like, I want to make it so that you can watch the group you want to watch. I don't actually care about the people. I don't want to be served. I want to watch the things I want to watch when I want to watch them. What if I made a virtual group that I could put? At the same time, I'm sitting in a meeting. I mean, I tell people I want to be the single biggest detriment to productivity in the country on Thursday and Friday, right? That you just can't look away from what's happening. Cool, that's what we're trying to do. But if I'm sitting in a meeting, I want to have the app open so that I know what's happening. I want to get the right alert at the right time about the right person that I forgot that I knew I cared about because I'm now interested, right? All that then builds to that venue experience in the week. Every one of those is a venue experience. It's just built around different tools. How do we serve that with as much information as possible so that it is, to your point, unique to the fan for what they're doing, when they're doing it, when they want it? And by the way, can you get me in and out of the venue better, please? Parking is awful.
You know, one of the things I thought about, though, is part of our job also is to help a fan understand what they don't understand and what they don't know that they want. So when you're talking about, keeping somebody in their seat so they don't miss a play, that's where our technology steps in. You know, when you're talking about in-seat ordering, mobile ordering, inside the venue. But then, you're talking about getting to the venue. We can make the ticket process easier. So that's all on the sports tech side of it. So a lot of what's happened, especially in the casino side of the world, is we had to take big chances to help the consumer, our patron, understand what they need, not just what they want. A lot of times they don't know what they want until we let them know what they want. And so I think that's been a big part of the evolution in gaming. I see that happening also in sport.
I also think, just one last note on this, that there's a lot that we're talking about. We're covering a lot of ground in terms of the experience in the venue and all the things you don't see and what that happens and how that works in concessions and everything else. I think one of the things that it's easy for us to forget is that one of our core jobs is to help people understand why what they just saw was hard. Because I refer to this as the triple axle problem. Everybody goes to the Winter Olympics and they all hit a triple axle. It doesn't look hard anymore until you get on skates and realize you're going to die, right? Okay. This is what happens. If everybody sticks a 5-iron to a foot, like, why do I care? We have to, when you're at the venue itself, when you're in a football stadium, you watch, and sometimes you just missed it, you just looked away, you looked at your nachos. I want the replay, and I want to see something because I can't hear what just happened, why that was something no one's done, or it was really hard, or why do I care? That's what it's down to. I spent a lot of money to come here, and I think that the combination of those competition and visual and technologies to tell stories with the comfort of an experience matters, and how you get those things together is hard.
No, it's a terrific point. It's often what we depend on other fans in the venue with us to help us decipher and understand, right? It's like when everybody rises and stands as one, you're like, something is happening right now and we should be paying attention. This is good. Okay, so pivoting maybe to unseen innovations, unseen technologies that might be making a big impact. I'm going to bring up everyone's favorite topic in technology, which is security and cybersecurity. Everyone loves talking about security and cybersecurity. But it's a topic that we need to address. It's a topic we need to think about in the sports industry as well. And each of you come at it from a different perspective a little bit too. I'm curious, actually, maybe Ken, if you wouldn't mind, because you have a unique challenge as well, right, with your domain in terms of, again, that stadium that has to be popped up quickly, taken down quickly, and that doesn't have any walls, doesn't have any kind of floor plan, as you mentioned.
Well, we think about security from a couple of different levels. So obviously cybersecurity, and we depend on a lot of people to help us with that. That's just I hate to say it, that's a given. That just is. And if you haven't you got to decide the standard you care about and then meet it. But we also have a physical security problem. It's a golf course. Like, the ins and outs and how the venue works and even setting that up is painful. We spend a lot of time on physical security. And frankly, one of the things that we spend time and money on is we try and test ourselves. We pay people to come and find us. I once had to stop my staff from chasing someone with a baseball bat after they took off with a tablet. And the reason is because this is data this is what we own. It's literally what we own. The data defines who we are and what we have. So we are very, very careful with that. But there's a third level I just want to point out, and that is let's go back to the AI topic at the top for a second. We are very careful in deciding what we do with our own data. So we have very careful procedures about where that data goes. Once it's in the public domain, it's basically gone. So how do we use AI in sandboxed environments ahead of time so that we can get all the benefits from it, but without losing control of who we are? You got to think about it at multiple levels, and it's unsexy, and it's hard, and there's always somebody around the edges, and you're never going to get it perfectly right. It's a challenging topic.
Maria, I know IoT is a domain where security is, of course, being thought of, not only because of the possibility, but also because of potential weaknesses in IoT and vulnerabilities. I'm curious from your perspective at Intel, how you think about it.
Yeah, I think piggybacking on what was said, I think in the physical venue when it comes to security and the use of AI, there's a real great opportunity that will help on the ground teams be able to scale. Because you only have so many people. You only have so many people on the ground, and they're usually working with the local police force and others to come up with a plan to create a safe environment for their fans, because we know that safety is one of the top concerns for your fans that are coming. And so AI, different applications that can be used through camera data, through sensor data, et cetera, can help and be used to provide insights that are real time so that your security teams can take an action if needed. And alert in ways that probably the human eye probably would not be able to catch. And I think there's a much more cultural acceptance to those types of security practices and technologies in order to keep everybody safe. On the cybersecurity side, in working with different providers, I think what's really critical is that any organization that started off as a physical venue organization understand that as you bring on more sensors, more data, et cetera, it really is a requirement that the cybersecurity side of the house has to be just as robust, if not more, than what you do in your physical venue. Why? Because the ins and outs of using data digitally are just very different. It's a very different medium. And I think that's a really important piece. It's not so much about what can the tech do on that in terms of detecting anomalies or being able to go through social media to see if there's this odd trend that's occurring by certain types of posts. Sure, those applications are out there. But really where people fall down or organizations, it's this people process plus the technology. You have to think holistically on the cybersecurity piece.
Yeah, and when we've worked with you at Sports Innovation Lab on this side, one of the challenges, of course, is there's just not ownership. There are not many CISOs, there's not many security officers in the domain of sports yet. And so until someone owns that responsibility, it has the potential to fall flat.
And frankly, whether it's been sitting in ops or in some facet within the business, the reality is as the journey becomes much more, it's an and, right? It's at home and in a physical venue. It's much more robust, it's much more complicated, and it does require, energy within the organization to very much focus on keeping people's data safe, making them feel safe in order to be able to participate.
What that kind of transitions me to thinking is you have gaming, you then, in 18, sports betting became real again. In 14, iGaming became real. And all of a sudden now you have gaming, sports betting, iGaming, all is, one industry in one way. But when it comes to data, and it comes to cybersecurity, and it comes to making sure that that information is protected, that's complicated things. Imagine this. Imagine if every NFL team today resided on the Las Vegas Strip. How hard that would be to try to keep not only the data from the bad guy, but to make sure that you don't accidentally let one team have the other team's information. That's kind of where Every's at today. I mean, we have 30 plus casinos more sitting on the Las Vegas Strip. We have the lion's share of every one of these casinos, from the MGMs and the Caesars and the Wynn's and so forth, as customers and partners. We have to make really good decision on how that data is shared, not only protected from the outside, but even how we protect it on the inside to make sure it doesn't go the wrong way. So it's a big job. And now moving outside of the brick and mortar into the cyber world, into the sports betting, iGaming, and other, it just puts another layer on there. To my company, no different than anybody else, but everything we do is based on regulatory compliance, in the way that we protect not only, the company, but the patron, our client being the casinos, the sports venues, and others. So it's complicated. We have to have the right partners. We have to have the right tools, and that's a big part of what we do. So we lean on companies like yours to help us with that.
Yeah. Compliance is a form of security. It certainly is. All right, here's a bit of a wild card question. You'll appreciate the pun in a moment. We're here in Las Vegas. We've heard a lot of conversation already about gaming, about casinos. If you were to tell the sports industry in your position, and you are in the sports industry, of course, you would say, what's one thing you should learn, one thing you could take away, near term or long term, from casinos, from gaming, that would make a impactful difference on the sports industry? I wonder what you would suggest the sports industry look at.
I think that at its core, it's that people are there to engage, and people are there to have fun, and putting that at the center of everything that we do. And it's about getting them to the reason they're there as quickly as possible and in the most engaging way possible. And I think casinos do a great job of that, of creating sticky experiences. And once you're there, you want to stay there. And what can stadiums do to increase that stickiness? And is there some kind of upselling opportunity? If you get there and you have engaged with the team, outside of the venue, and you're at a certain threshold of, fandom or loyalty or redemption opportunities, can you get upgraded to a seat? If you are a, diehard Browns fan and you've engaged with all of Nick Chubb's content and you've bought his jersey and you're at the game and he crosses 100 yards rushing, you're cheering with your friends and your family, but can you get served a personalized promotion off of, your next beer to reward you for your fandom, deepen that fandom, drive you to continue to engage out of the venue, word of mouth, tell your friends how great of an experience you had. And so it's really about finding ways to increase stickiness inside and outside the venue and building additional crossover points between those two different scenarios.
I love that you use the word sticky. As a former game developer myself, I think for a long time, sports has assumed that the sport contest itself is going to be enough. But I can tell you, as a father of two kids, it can be hard for soccer to compete with the AFC for them. If I bring them to a live event, they love it. It's not quite as sticky. It just isn't, right?
Well, so when gaming scared us to death. I think it scared a lot of people in sports to death because there's just so much potential for nefarious activity or just bad things to happen. It's a lot, right? But the reason that we actually finally went there, don't get me wrong, I enjoy getting paid. There's revenue to be made. Yes, I'm in. But the reason that we did this, the core reason, was because it's one more reason to follow what's going on. You care one more bit about what just happened. And the more we can help people care about the next thing, the easier it is for us to keep their attention so that they care about the bigger things and the next thing and the one after that. To your point, it becomes stickier.
So I would like to add, so you hit on personalization and loyalty as a capability. I definitely think that is something that can be brought over in terms of understanding the tiering of your types, different personas of your fans and what they're really seeking. I think also from a hospitality angle, making it super easy and seamless, whether it's from locating my parking, getting into my location, my viewing, getting stats of my team, whatever it may be. Really maybe taking a lens of hospitality of what does that actually mean of end to end from, purchase all the way through getting to location to parking, et cetera, and back out. From a hospitality lens, how do I make that customer feel like, or that fan feel like they're the center of attention, and that everything just works very easy for them, where there's zero frustration in and out?
Okay, sorry, I just want to add one thing to that really, really quick. I apologize, but it's funny because I pointed this out when we work in some venues that have very challenging traffic. It's houses, right? One of the things I pointed out to somebody when we were just having a conversation, and the only thing worse than awful traffic would be no traffic. And so it's an interesting dichotomy when you go to a sporting event, right? I don't want there to be no one there. I just want it to be easy to get in and out of there. That's a hard technical problem, but it's something interesting to think about. I'm here because of the people, not in spite of them, although sometimes it feels like it.
So, full disclosure, and why I left my last job to come back to Every. And the irony is, I worked for this company 30 years back, just under a different name. So I kid about the fact, be careful about the butt you're kicking tomorrow. You may be kissing it, or yesterday, you may be kissing it tomorrow. So here I am back. And the reason I came back is because I wanted to be able to innovate and bring brick and mortar gaming, iGaming, sports betting, and sport all together. So we're making strategic moves to do that. And I think the question was, what can you learn from the gaming industry? So this would be a challenge. If you don't know who this guy is, Gary Loveman. Gary Loveman was the guy that changed the way that reward loyalty happened in the casino industry. Because if you go back, a couple of decades when he was, charging forward with Harris, he started doing something different. And there was already loyalty in the casino business. There was already reward in the casino business. It just wasn't the right stuff. And so what he did is he changed the industry by the way that he offered reward. So part of what Every is working towards in the sports business is we're going to bring a flavor of the Gary Loveman, Caesars Entertainment loyalty reward program into the business. And what I believe that will do is it will give patrons what they want. Now it's funny. This morning I'm in my room and I noticed underneath the corner of my bed was a Nerf bullet from a Nerf gun. Well, they forgot to clean it up, but what that told me is there's kids at that venue, right? So they have to be, very, conscious about the way that they not only entertain the adult, but the child. And, the casino business, there's a lot to be learned, but I think that sport also can share back to the casino industry in loyalty and loyalty to brand. If you're on a call with me, a Teams call, you'll know very quickly that I'm a Tennessee Volunteer and I'm a Pittsburgh Steeler. But I don't need anybody to help me purchase a piece of apparel. But what are they going to do? What are those teams going to do to make sure that I'm there consistently, spending money consistently? I think that goes back to the districts, which we're going to see a big run in district. How do we keep everybody engaged in one place, loyal to one place, so the venue, the team, and anybody attached to it will prosper? That's going to be that is the focus of whatever he's going to go after in this next decade.
All right.
What makes you think that adults aren't carrying Nerf bullets?
When I saw you unpack your bag, I figured it might be you.
It's like, that was my room. Okay, 2 minutes left. Lightning round. If you had to leave this audience with one thing that they should look out for that's going to be the most impactful change to the sports industry, what would you say that's going to be?
Sure. I would say that the in-venue experience, and I've harped on this point a few times, is going to become increasingly personalized. And you are going to have an experience unique to you in that venue. And you are going to be served promotions that matter to you. If you want to go to the restaurant after the game and we know that you're a foodie or a restaurateur, you're going to get served those ads. If you don't drink alcohol, we're not going to serve you a Mass Bud Light promotion. Every experience is going to be personalized to you, and it's going to be about each individual fan and their behavior.
I think you look for the most unlikely. years ago, coin was taken off a casino floor. And when that happened, the industry really did think that it was going to cripple the casinos. And what happened is efficiencies came with that. People weren't moving carts around. You weren't waiting to be cashed out. You know, if you go down to Aria right now and you look at what looks like an ATM, that's a bank. That is a reward program. That is, you know, a redemption program. So I think what we'll see and what I believe we'll see, we're going to see efficiencies, and I think that what we're going to see is what we think can't move will move. And when it moves, it's going to move to something bigger and better.
I'll go with one that's unseen, digital twin. I think that behind the scenes in terms of planning and ops, there's a ton of application, but it actually moves into the fan experience because once you digitize your venue, you have a step to move into augmented reality that is much more in line with the venue. And then there's applications for your VIP, for your marketing, ad sales, etc. I think that can push planning ahead for a venue that is, you know, so large and difficult.
Actually, I'm going to agree with you. It's the same thing. It's the invisible collection of data at a level that is microscopic so that you can reproduce it for customized experiences no matter what, where, or how you want to create them.
And it's more tangible, right?
Yes. Yeah, in whatever format or wherever you are.
Yeah.
All right, you heard it from them. You heard it from here first. I would love to thank our panelists. This was awesome. I hope you had as much fun as I did. And thank you all for coming out.